Well, hello, YouTubers. Mike here. Welcome to my Arizona cabin. My little slice of heaven in Arizona out here where I can get away from it all and do astrophotography and just chill and relax. But I can't do too much relaxing right now because I've got a project I need to work on. I brought this box with me from Florida. Drove all the way out here with this. I built it while I was in Florida. Laughingly called it my chicken coop because it kind of looks like a little chicken coop. What this is a box I'm going to put all of the solar power equipment in to get it out of the cabin so that there's more room in the cabin. Because, when I was just coming out here by myself, well, the cabin was plenty roomy for just me when I was, in my bachelorhood. But now that I'm married, my wife comes out here with me a lot. It's a little tight for two people. And I'm trying to move as much stuff out of the cabin as I can. It doesn't need to be in there. So one thing that doesn't need to be in there is all the solar power equipment. The batteries, the charge controller, the inverter, all the wiring. Yeah, I'll give you a look at that. Okay, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's okay. This is the existing solar power setup inside the cabin. It's a little makeshift. It's a little sketchy. Okay, it's a lot sketchy. I admit it. So this is what I'm going to neaten up by putting all this stuff in the box outside. First off, it's going to get it out of the cabin because, when this was just my bachelor cabin, it was just me up here. There was plenty of room. But now that, I'm married, my wife comes up here with me. Got a queen bed in the place. It's a little tight in here, okay? This has got to go outside. It's also a little scary with all these wires hanging out all over the place. And, you just got to bump it and something doesn't work right anymore. And I'm always worried there's going to be a short circuit, maybe a fire. So I got to neaten this up. This is just getting ridiculous. So I'm going to put all this outside in that box. And I'm going to add a third battery, too, for some extra capacity. Neaten up the wiring a lot. The charge controller and the inverter are going to go out in the box. And all I'm going to bring into the cabin are, some wires for 12-volt power for the lighting and 120 volts from the inverter for all of our things that need that. So that's all I'm bringing in. And I'm going to get rid of this bench and this shelf over here and open up this area around the bed over here. And we'll have a little bit more room here in the cabin. So that's one of my main projects for when I'm out here this time, fixing this mess. So all that stuff's going to live inside this box. So that is one of my main goals while I'm out here, is to get this box all set up and wired up and hooked into the cabin, get the power into the cabin, and free up some space in there. So I'm going to be working on that today. Well, I'm making some progress. I've got the inverter and the charge controller mounted inside the box. I just got to do a lot of wiring. And then I can install the batteries in here and wire them up. And carefully test everything. Carefully test and double check everything. Make sure I've got it all wired up correctly. There's not going to be any short circuits. I'm adding some fuses that I haven't had before. It's been kind of a little dangerous running without fuses, so there's going to be some fuses here and there. So if there is a short circuit, they should blow rather than the wires catching fire. So, alright, I gotta get back to work because I'm burning daylight here, and I want to have power tonight. Okay, this is actually coming along pretty good. I thought I'd wrecked my charge controller somehow, but I realized later it doesn't work unless there's a battery hooked up to the system. I had the permanently mounted solar panel up there wired in and was checking everything, and the charge controller was just whining at me. It was making a beeping noise, but it wasn't doing anything else. And it needs a battery connected, then it'll work. So I've temporarily hooked one of the batteries up, and the charge controller is working. In fact, it's charging the battery up. It was at 13.1 before, now we're at 13.3, so it's charging the battery up. Okay. So I need to check that the connector I made for wiring in these other panels over here, which I store away and don't leave out permanently, I need to double check that the polarity on that's right and plug it in and make sure that's working. And then run a few other tests, and then I'll put the batteries in here and wire them up permanently. Okay, well, I got something else I need to do. I got the batteries out over here, and I've got to top them off with distilled water. It is so dry out here, you have no idea. Now, these battery caps are supposed to recondense the water. It just evaporates out here, especially in this wind and this heat. It's crazy. So I got to top them off. But you know what the hardest part of this whole project was? Finding distilled water out here. It is impossible to find. I went to like 8 different places before I found some. You think the supply chain issues are bad in your city? Try it in some of these small rural towns out here. They just can't get stuff. I was right at the point of building myself a still and making some distilled water myself when I found some in a little country store. So, because I was down to just a splash in this jug, which isn't going to be enough to do all the batteries. So, okay, so I need to top off the water in the batteries, do a few more tests over there, get these in the box and wired in, and I think we'll have power tonight. It's looking pretty promising. And okay, I know the wiring still looks a little sketchy. Here's my problem, okay? It's a 60-mile round trip to the nearest hardware store that might or might not have what I need because it's a very small hardware store in a very small town. So I tried to anticipate everything I was going to need. I've still needed to make 2 trips into town to get this far along. But when I don't have something, instead of running back into town to get it, I just sort of make do with what I've got or fabric cobble together something. So yeah, it's a rainbow color of wires in there, but black or white is going to be ground or negative. Red, orange, or yellow is going to be positive. So, I know this. In fact, I might even put a note inside the box just so I remember. Because, stuff that seems obvious to you today, 2 years down the road, when I've got to work on this, it might be, oh, what was white? Was that positive or was that negative? It's like, yeah, okay. So I might make some notes and just leave them in the box to consult in the future when I have to work on this thing. So I'm just trying to minimize my trips into town. Gas is $4.50. Like I said, it's 60 miles round trip. It kills a good part of the day too. I want to get this done. So I'm just using what I've got around the ranch here. Okay, I know this is really hard to see in the bright sunlight, but I wanted to check that the inverter was wired in properly and working. And I just had the battery connected up with those little skinny alligator clips, and that inverter draws a huge amount of power when you first turn it on. It's got big electrolytic capacitors in it that need to charge up. So I have, those. It was complaining. It was squealing. It obviously wasn't getting the current it wanted. So what I have done is I have temporarily wired in one battery to the system. And I don't know if you can see it, but that green light is flashing. I've got my Ryobi battery charger in here hooked up to the inverter. This is not where it's going to live, by the way. I'm just testing if the inverter is working. Because I can't see the status lights on it in the daylight out here, so I can't tell whether it's on or not. But yeah, it's putting out AC. The charger's charging. Here in my own shadow, you can see the little green LED blinking down there. So, okay, so the inverter's working. We're getting power from those solar cells. We're getting power from the solar cell up there. We're charging the battery. The inverter's working. So everything seems to be working. So I guess I can put the rest of the batteries in and wire them in the way I want them. I think I'm going to have power tonight. Okay, I've topped up the water in these 2 batteries. The one that's in there I'd already done. And while I was at it, I checked the water and topped it up in the battery in my trusty 2006 Toyota Tacoma that stays out here now. That battery's probably getting close to needing replaced. I think it's at least 4 years old, maybe more. Still starting, and I got a jump pack with me just in case, but still, sooner or later I have to replace that battery. The water in it was low too. So, anyway, these batteries are all topped up. Gonna get them in, get everything wired up. Why am I so desperate to have power tonight? What's the point? You know, what's one night with kerosene lanterns? Well, here's the thing. The reason I bought this property, although it's a little cloudy today, not too bad, and a little windy. The reason I bought this property is to do astrophotography out here. And I've been doing that the last few nights. And my laptop battery is good for 4.5 hours tops under best of conditions. And if it has to run the astro camera and other accessories at the telescope too, it's going to run down a lot quicker. So I need to have the inverter hooked up and the batteries charged so that I can run the laptop well into the night, 4, 5, 6 hours maybe, and capture images. I've got a 100-foot extension cord that runs out to where the telescope's set up. So, yeah, got to have power. Otherwise, it really limits my imaging out here. So, yeah, so I need the power to keep the laptop going and power the telescope well into the night. I'll insert a few images that I've taken in the last couple nights out here and show you what I'm doing out here. Okay, let me get these batteries installed, everything wired up, and give it a final test. And I've got some wiring to do inside the cabin too, the low voltage DC stuff. So let me get back to work. Okay, the batteries are in. I just need to put the cover over it here, the insulating cover. And I need to put the covers on the bus bars over here. And pretty much this is done. So I mentioned earlier I put some fuses in. I wasn't totally running without fuses earlier, but it was, you know, I decided I needed a few extra fuses than I had. So this 60 amp fuse over here, and again, this is kind of bodged together just with stuff I had laying around the ranch rather than running into town again, 60 miles round trip. 60 amp fuse here is going to supply DC power to the DC stuff inside the cabin. Right now it's mainly just lighting, but there may be more stuff in the future. And everything that I'm going to have, like boxes with cigarette lighter outlets inside the cabin, and everything that plugs into one of those boxes will have a fuse inside the cigarette lighter connector, so that'll be fused that way. But we can have a total of 60 amps of DC going to the cabin. Got another 60 amp fuse here for the inverter. So if the inverter is running at near its peak of 1200 watts, yeah, we'll 60 amps is pretty good for that. Got a 30 amp fuse down here between the solar panel input and the charge controller, just so that if there's some kind of short circuit in here somewhere, we'll blow that fuse right there. So that's what that's for. So yeah, lots of fusing. These fuses and everything that plugs into the system is going to have its own fuse in it too. So if there's a short circuit, hopefully we won't have any fire, smoke, explosion, that kind of stuff. Okay, I think I'm done out here. I've got the bus bar covers on, and I'm just going to put this insulated cover over the batteries, so that'll keep them from getting too hot or too cold depending on the weather out here. Now, the one thing I am a little concerned about is I have no ventilation in the box. So it's possible if I'm running the inverter hard, it could get hot in here, and the inverter might go into thermal shutdown. But I don't see that happening because I'm never drawing more than, I don't know, 60, 80, maybe 100 watts from the inverter. If I'm running a vacuum cleaner in the cabin, you know, I might be running close to 1,000 watts, but only for a couple minutes because the cabin's not very big. So, yeah. The only thing I'd be really worried about is if it got hot inside this box in the summertime, and I tried to run the inverter for a while, it may go into thermal shutdown. But I don't really see that as a big problem. I'll just open the lid and let it cool off, you know? Okay. I gotta go in the cabin and do some work now. little bit of low voltage wiring in there, and I need to take out the shelves that all this stuff was on and make room in there. Well, one unexpected problem I'm having with the low voltage wiring, this is the box with the 2 cigarette lighter outlet plugs in it. The box just isn't deep enough. The plugs are pretty deep, and the spade connectors on the back stick out a little further, and the wiring I used is just a high current wire. It's very stiff, so there's just no way to get this in there. So what I think I'm going to do, since this isn't going to be actually, it doesn't need to have such high current wire for this, because we're just going to be using this for like phone chargers and things like that. I think what I will do is I will splice the thin cables that actually came with these plugs here into the heavy wire, and then these should be bendy enough that I should be able to get this top of the box on. And then this is on a cable long enough I can move it anywhere in the cabinet it needs to be, you know, to where I need 12 volt power. So I think I will do that. That'll just take a few minutes, I'm sure. Okay, well, there we go. Got the AC coming in. At the moment, I've got a lot of stuff plugged in because I haven't had power for a while, so I'm charging a lot of stuff up. My electric shaver, my laptop. Got the DC power over there. Got one like phone charger plugged into it, and I got another empty slot I can plug something into. So there's DC power and AC power. Okay, all I've got left to do is get rid of this stuff right here. And that's just the work of a couple of minutes. Take these shelves out that aren't needed anymore. Free up a little space in the cabin. And it's a beautiful thing. I've got stuff out of the cabin. I've got it more reliable, neater, and out of the way. And hey, it's a beautiful thing. I got power. I'll be at the telescope tonight. All right. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you found this video interesting, inspirational, intriguing, educational, whatever. Give the video a thumbs up, give it a like, and subscribe to see my future videos. There will be more videos coming out. And click the little bell icon that YouTube makes you press to be notified when new videos come out. And check out my other channel. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.